The trailer for Logan is here, and it is introducing an important mutant character many of you are probably already familiar with. This is actress Daphne Keane, and her identity was confirmed by director James Mangold, who posted a picture with the caption Laura at the bottom, as in Laura Kinney, X-23, a genetic clone of Wolverine. What's up, everybody? My name is Joshua. Going to do a deep dive going into the comics and everything we think we know about this new movie, Logan. I'm going to show you some cool stuff that X-23 is doing in this trailer. And here she is jumping around just like Wolverine. She has all his abilities, fighting some Mexican police officers. We believe this takes place in Mexico City, or at least a lot of it. And you can see it looks like she's stabbing this guy in the back very painfully. And if we zoom to the end here, I believe we're getting a look at her claws. I don't know what is happening, but I think she's attacking Wolverine. Maybe she goes feral and is sicked on the man who becomes her father figure. But what's actually really interesting is that there's 6 claws here. In the comic books, she has 2 claws in her hands, then 1 on each foot. The 6 claw thing with a third one coming out of the wrist instead of the back of the hand actually belongs to Daken. And Daken is Wolverine's biological son in the comic books. So I gotta wonder, is this Daken here attacking Wolverine? Was he cast in the movie and we don't know about it? Or is this X-23 and she has Daken's claw design? And the reason I think Daken might be here is if we scrub a little more, this is a small person, probably Laura's age. It might be Laura jumping off a roof. Looks like they're escaping the man in the lab coat and a security guard. So it looks like they might be escaping the facility that created these clones. But the pants look just like what Laura's wearing, although she's wearing a different top, like a blue hoodie. So could this be Daken? The short hair makes me think this could be a boy. So this is just me theorizing here, but what if there's a boy and a girl clone of Wolverine, and they both try to escape, and the boy doesn't make it, and that's Daken, and then Laura does make it out and goes and meets up with Professor X and Wolverine. I don't know. And maybe it is Daken attacking him at the end because he stayed behind and they brainwashed him and turned him feral and sicked them on them to hunt them down in the end. I don't know. Now I'm just writing X-Men fan fiction. But let's go back actually to the beginning. And here we have Logan at a funeral. This has had has a lot of people talking because we don't know who died, but we do know that all the mutants are dying out and all the X-Men are gone at this point in the timeline. Director James Mangold said that this is the timeline established at the end of Days of Future Past. So while everyone isn't being killed by Super Sentinels, it does look like something else got to them. I'm guessing this is towards the beginning of the movie and it's the funeral of perhaps the last X-Man, because that would be very dramatic. And I think if I had to choose an X-Man to be the last one to die for Logan's movie, I would actually choose Rogue, because that would be super sad because she was his little sidekick, little sister person from back in the first X-Men movie. And as we can see, as we move forward here, Logan has scars on his back. He can still heal. He has the healing factor, but it just isn't what it used to be. So when he heals, it leaves behind an ugly scar. And he's an old man now. Look at him. And I say old man because that obviously conjures the comic book Old Man Logan to your mind. And yes, this movie does seem to be taking inspiration from that comic book, but it has so many elements from the MCU, like Hawkeye and Red Skull and Spider-Man and all that Fox cannot do that story. So this is just a spiritual adaptation of Old Man Logan. And if we go forward again, we see what looks to be a really old Professor X. He's got dementia in this movie, so he's not doing so well, but he does have moments where he's lucid. And this fallen water tower seems to visually resemble Cerebro, so maybe being in this like dome-shaped thing helps him use his powers, which are failing him, or it's just a visual throwback. I want to jump forward a little bit and go to this masked man. I was actually really hoping this would be like Cyclops or something because of the goggles, but if we actually skip forward and go to here, we can actually see that it's Caliban. It's either wearing the same scarf thing, shawl, and he was an X-Men Apocalypse, and he has the power to track down other mutants. It looks like the Reavers are forcing him to use his power to find Wolverine, Professor X, and X-23. Let's go back, and this is actually really cool. And you might be thinking, oh, it's just a truck, but the road trip is a very big thing people love about Old Man Logan comic, and it looks like they're doing that. We have Wolverine driving here and Professor X in the back, and so it'll be them trekking from one point in the country to another on sort of an escort mission. And let's get a look at, yeah, here we go, Donald Pierce. And so he's one of the villains. So one I say because at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, we saw someone with a briefcase that says Essex Corp on it, which had some blood samples from Wolverine in it. And we're assuming that that company becomes Transigen, which we know is in this movie, and they are the ones that create X-23. And Essex is actually Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister, who has been confirmed by Simon Kinberg and Bryan Singer to be the villain of this movie. But back to Donald Pierce, who we have here. In the comics, he started as a member of the Hellfire Club, but then he became the leader of the Reavers, who are all these nasty cyborg killers, just like him. And they're killers for hire, and they hate mutants. So either they are part of the organization that created X-23, or they're hired by them to bring her back. And we're thinking, again, that's Mr. Sinister. And we don't see him in the trailer, but they could be working for him. And this is a Professor X in his wheelchair again. And it looks like his powers are sort of out of control a little bit. His head's rolling back, and looks like these Reavers are trying to take him, attack him, and X-23 as well, but he lashes out with his powers. But again, he has dementia. Things aren't what they used to be. And if we go forward a little bit here, we see Wolverine looks like he's back in Professor X's makeshift home in the water tower. There's those plants again. There's his wheelchair on the left. And it looks like Wolverine is again shaking, fighting to give an injection. Looks like a syringe in his hand to Professor X. And it's hard to say what this syringe is for. Maybe it's to keep his powers in check, to keep his dementia at bay, or maybe as some sort of disease or something killed all the mutants and it's about to take Professor X, and this serum is stopping it. I don't know, but things look pretty rough for Logan and company. And I want to go to the very end here. We see this. This is actually, we know who's holding Logan's hand from that poster. But the sense I get is that, they go on this road trip, Professor X, Logan, X-23. But you see in this shot, Professor X is not there. He's missing. And obviously they could be burying someone else, but they look really upset. And I can't think of a bigger motivator for Logan to go on protecting X-23 than the loss of his pseudo-father figure, the man who helped him get his life back on track, than the loss of, Professor X. So maybe he'll go on from here, and this will be the inspiration for him to keep fighting, until the end of the movie. And to one final point I want to make, if we're going to actually go back to the beginning of the trailer, to this funeral, and, there's one thing Professor X says in the trailer. He says, "What have you done?" And it got me thinking of Old Man Logan, where Logan went into hiding and the world was taken over by supervillains because he was tricked into killing the X-Men. So that line, "What have you done?" could mean that Logan did something equally awful to contribute to the way that the world is now with no mutants. What if he's at this funeral because he killed all the X-Men? So I'll let that sit on your conscience as we wait for more on Logan. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned to IGN.